Welcome, ladies, to the Real Estate Investor Show, providing inspiration, strategies, and insight to empower women investors to live balanced and financially free lives. Now, here are your co-hosts, Liz and Andresa.
Welcome back, ladies. This is Liz.
And this is Andresa.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Investor Show, where our mission is to empower women to live a financially free and balanced life. And whatever balance means to you, as we like to say. We're excited to come back with a Minisode today. This is 10 minutes or less. And I'm going to be talking about how to incorporate self-care when you don't have time. And that's not always easy to do, incorporating self-care, right, Andresa? It's pretty tough for most women in our community.
I don't know what you're talking about. That sometimes is a foreigner subject, but so important. And that's why we stand here on our real estate investor community. We talked about real estate. We talked about business strategies and self-care. It's not a priority order. They're all as important.
Okay. So I'm going to be talking about, just such an important topic, because so many times, so many women in our community, right, Andresa, they put themselves last. And for various reasons why we could put ourselves last. But self-care is a big topic. And it's not just going to get a massage. It's not just going to get your nails done. It could be, but it could be a lot more than that. So I really wanted to talk through, what does it look like? And how do you do it when you just don't have a ton of time, like most of us, to spend on ourselves? We don't have the luxury at times to have 4 hours a day, right? Or 3 hours a day. Some days we do, some days we don't. But what I wanted, why this topic is so important, is even if it's 5 minutes a day, what does that look like, and how do we incorporate? And what can we incorporate in 5 minutes? Obviously, you're not going to go get a massage for 5 minutes. So I have a process I've kind of prepared for all of you, like Andresa and I like to do. We ask you questions, thought-provoking questions, because the last thing we want to do is waste your time. So I have a few kind of thought-provoking questions for you to think about and really kind of noodle, and then some takeaways for today, and give you kind of like little homework assignment, little action steps to take. So the first question I want you to kind of get present to is, where's your time going? So often we talk about, I don't have the time. And that's very well true and possible, but it's really helpful to know where your time is going. And sometimes we're really like, oh, I don't spend a lot of time on TV. And then you circle it back and go, okay, how much time did I spend this month or this week? And it's more than you really thought. I don't know how many times that's happened to me. I don't know about you, Andresa. Is like sometimes just the tracking of things, tracking of time, really, we get very present to, wow, it's just like a fact, right? It's not good or bad, but it's just a fact. And it helps open our eyes to where our time is going. So that's just my first question. I want you to kind of get into your thinking and process here. So where's your time going? I'm a big fan of like literally just tracking your time. Look at your week. Where did your time go from the time you get up to the time you go to bed? Second thought, as we jump into this topic, we talk about self-care, but I like to think of it too as self-love. And, if you think of self-care as self-love, would you make a little more time for it versus feeling like it's an event or it's a thing you have to do now to make time for? But if you can think of it as self-love, that might feel a little easier to incorporate in a simplistic way. So that was just something I wanted to get present to. I'm reading a great book. I don't have it in front of me right now. It's a great book on self-compassion. And it brings you through various processes on like how to have compassion for yourself. And you might be thinking, I don't know what you're talking about. I love myself. I'm great. Or maybe you're not thinking that. But what do you say to yourself on a daily basis? Like, really, what do you say to yourself? And would you say that same thing to your friend? Because if the answer is no, then you're probably not speaking very nicely to yourself. And quite honestly, that's one of the biggest ways to start creating some space for self-care is self-love and talking to yourself positively and nicely with grace, right? And just we talk so much about grace in our community and give yourself grace. I know on our masterminds with our Strive members, a lot of women are so, they're tough on themselves, right? And
they're so successful. They're accomplishing so many things, and they're still like grace. Yesterday, actually, on my pod, we have an accountability pod. I refer to a quote from Dan Sullivan's book, Gap in the Gain, that our expectations are like horizons. right? You're not supposed to achieve the horizon. So you're never going to achieve your expectations. Plain and simple. So being okay with that, right? Okay, that's my perfect scenario.
Mhm.
This project will run perfectly, but that's not the case, right? So have some grace with that.
Yeah, no, that's a great, yeah, that's a great tip, right? Measuring what they talk about in that book is measuring backwards rather than forwards, because we're always going to be, upset with not where we
In the
want to be
gap.
versus what we've created. So that's a great point. So again, I really want you to get present to what are you saying to yourself on a daily basis? And that's hard to do sometimes, but right, if you're not a journal person, you can even just document it some way, whether it's verbally or in writing, but you want to become real present to what you're saying. And are you coming from a self-love perspective? I'd also say mental health is part of self-care. Again, it's not just the massage, the getting the nails done. Literally, your emotional and mental health is part of your self-care. Quite honestly, it's the starting point, in my opinion, of self-care. Emotional care, mental care, physical care, and your spiritual care, whatever spiritual means to you. And those 4 areas are really a great place to think about for self-care. And they don't have to be this, I have to go take an hour to go, do X, Y, and Z. It could be 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So again, think about how important your mental health, your emotional health is in self-care. How are you feeling? Are you someone who knows how they feel all the time? Are you someone who's just pounding your day and you don't even know how frustrated or angry or sad you are about something? That's self-care to me. So if you don't have time, you're not really staying in tune with yourself. So that's something to think about. A couple of thoughts here in terms of just a process to make a list for yourself. Because again, we want these mini-sodes to be, what can you take away? Hopefully I've given you some different ways of thinking about this. But I want you to make a list of 3 simple self-care acts that you can do on a daily basis that bring you joy. That does not cost anything. And it's very little time, literally 5 minutes. I have a reminder on my watch to breathe. And whenever I see that,
Oh my gosh, Liz. Is
yeah,
there every second?
it needs to be every second because
It
the
goes off.
breath,
Liz clock goes off every second. Breathe, Liz.
it's so important. Someone I'm working with right now talks about how your breath is the entree to your self-love and to your self-care. Because if you're really not breathing through how you feel, what you think, you're not going to be able to take care of yourself. So breath is critical. So I literally have this reminder every hour on my phone to breathe. And I need to be reminded of that because I can get very in my head about stuff. So that's number 1. That takes 5 minutes. Literally, I look at my watch, I stop, I breathe, and it makes me feel a little better in that moment. That's a moment of self-care. Okay. A gratitude time. You can set your watch or have a ritual for yourself when you're eating lunch, or you go to the bathroom, or you do something that's literally in your everyday life. Walk your dog, pet your dog, feed your fish, whatever is in your world. Literally, it's something that you're already doing. You kind of batch in a gratitude sense or something like, hey, I had someone tell me when I go to a stoplight, I say something that I'm grateful for. And you're like, Liz, what does that have to do with self-care? Yeah, that's all to do with self-care. Because if you don't feel grateful and feel good about what you're up to, if you don't do that, you're going to beat yourself up and start to tear yourself down, which is not moving you towards self-care. It's moving you towards self-destruction. So we don't want to move towards self-destruction. We want to move to self-care and self-love. Self-care is just a means to get us there to self-love. That's what I'm, hopefully giving you some food for thought here. High-fiving yourself in the mirror. Mel Robbins wrote a great book, just released it, called The High Five Method. And I'm loving it. I love her. I love whatever she puts out. But literally, it takes seconds. You go to a mirror, you're brushing your teeth, you're putting your makeup on, and you high five yourself. And you're like, what the hell? How simple is that? Does that really make a difference? And then she gives all the research and the neuro-linguistic research that shows you how actually important that is for self-care and self-love, to appreciate yourself in the morning. So that's a simple thing to do. And then connect with your feelings, just another simple thing. Being mindful during your day of like mindfulness and just connecting to your feelings and breathing through them. Very simple things, not extraordinary, but we can make those things in our everyday world, in our everyday life. And that's going to create more self-love, which creates more self-care for us. I'd also then encourage you to think about it on a monthly basis, to do those really joyful activities as well. I know for me, my daughter and I started a ritual last week. There we have a little bubble bath in our in our master bedroom, in our master bath, and we took a bubble bath together. Just me and her, the girl. She's 5 years old, so it's not like weird. It's not she's 13. We're taking bubble baths together. But I'm like, that's a neat thing to do. We relax, we talk. And she likes to, play in the bubbles with me. So that's a self-care act. I just deem that as self-care. But on a monthly basis, walking outside, reading your favorite book with your favorite chai latte, whatever is your joyful things. That's simple, but something you can incorporate on a monthly basis or weekly basis that is an activity more than just what I was just sharing, also will add in your world, a little more self-care. So that's what I have for you today. Do something with this. Think of self-care as self-love and start really creating those moments during the day where you can start creating more self-love for yourself, therefore creating more self-care.
We hear a lot about like you're the average of the 5 people that you hang out with, right? And I'll also dare to say that your self-care is the average of the 5 people that you hang out with too. Because if you're just thinking like my self-care and then that's it, or your team or the people that you are with, right? It's very like daunting when you are just by yourself. But think about this, your circle. How is the culture where of your friendships, of your family members, of your team members? You are the average of that too. So keep that in mind, because if you have somebody that is really like great taking care of themselves and other people there are not, your average is going down, to be quite honest, because you're spending a lot of time with that person. Some family members, we cannot choose them, so we gotta spend time with them. So think about that and encourage other people to also listen to this episode as you did. So enjoy your day, share this episode with other people that you love and care about, and make it happen today. Bye. If you enjoyed this podcast and want to receive updates on our next interviews, go to our website, therealestateinvestor.com. There, you can subscribe to our show, become part of our investor community, and get updates on upcoming episodes.
If you like our show, please share it with other women who would benefit. And don't forget to leave us a rating on iTunes. We'd really appreciate it. And as always, we encourage you to take one action as a result of today's show and put it into motion so you can live both a financially free and balanced life. Thanks for spending time with us.